Hello everyone, I greet in the name of God Almighty. My name is Apostle Nathan Silas, and today we have a very interesting video to react to by Dr. Murad Winfred Hofman, and he says Islam, a rational faith. I believe that we are going to learn a lot, you understand, from this video. So if today happens to be the first time of you checking out my channel, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on my Facebook and Instagram. And if you have any video you want me to react to, don't forget to drop it at the comment section and I'm going to check it out. So guys, before we get on to the video, I'm a theologian and I make this video not to discredit anyone's religion. This is basically for educational purposes, and I believe that at the end of this video we all are going to learn from this. So guys, without any further ado, let's get on to this video and check this out.
Hello and welcome to Matters of Faith. I'm Christiana Bakker. Our topic today, Islam, a rational faith. Many people think religions are irrational. They're opium for the masses, and people adhere to religion with blind faith, but without reason. Today we're going to shed some light on these common prejudices. We look at the primary sources of Islam, the Quran, and the Sunnah, the practice of the Prophet, and we look into the history of Islam to understand the roles of reason, debate, and knowledge. Our guest today is the very distinguished Dr. Murad Hofman, famous former diplomat and ambassador for Germany, and author of many prominent books on various different aspects of Islam. For example, Islam the Alternative and Islam 2000. Welcome, Dr. Hofman.
Glad to be here.
First of all, could you define the terms rationality, reason, and faith?
A Muslim cannot get away without faith.
Yes.
Once you have pronounced the Shahada and you understand what it means, then you can apply your rationality and your reasoning again to the two things which we can use as object of study. One is nature, the cosmos, and you can find God there. And the other is the Quran, the Word of God.
Yes. Which asks us again and again to use our reasoning.
Right. There are 15 places in the Quran where an appeal is made to think, to reflect, to use one's mind. And therefore, I maintain that of the religions I know, Islam is the most rational.
Mm-hmm. So you would say definitely Islam is a religion for people who think?
Indeed.
What about blind faith? Is there such a thing as blind faith in Islam?
If you believe without reflecting on why you believe, then your faith might be blind. But I wouldn't belittle such a faith, because the end result is that somebody who studied philosophy and somebody who is a simple-minded citizen, the two are in the same boat as far as transcendence is concerned. They do not have access without faith.
Yes. Now, Islam means submission or devotion to God. How can this submission, again, be married to the rationality, reasoning?
When you know that you are 100% dependent on somebody else, it is not irrational for you to try to have good relations with such a person. You will make gifts at Christmas time or other times to such a person, and it is absolutely rational that we should devote some time each day to communicate with that person that for you is all essential.
Yes. Yes. Now, could you give us some examples from the Islamic tradition where reason and faith is being married or goes together?
I think it begins with the lifetime of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam already, when he lived in a religious community that is in Al-Madinah. And he dictated a constitution which became the first written constitution of the world for a situation which demanded rationality to the extreme, to make two people who had two different religions live together peacefully. That was an extremely rational thing.
Yeah. And the very first one, obviously. Now, within the Islamic tradition, one source is reasoning and jurisprudence and the application of the principles, fiqh and usul fiqh. Could you explain this a little bit as well? How scholars have always used reason.
Yes. I think the hadith critique, which had to develop very early and which reached its peak already in the 8th century, and the Mu'tazila philosophers, also 8th and 9th century, give great credit to the openness of Islam to reasoning. The Muslims themselves applied their critical abilities to judging whether a tradition of the Prophet could be or could not be correct. I mean, to deal with something as holy as the hadith literature with rational critique, I think is extraordinary in terms of human history.
Yeah. Hadith literature means could you explain this term?
The collections of the sayings of the Prophet, like Al-Bukhari or Muslim or Abu Dawood and the others.
Yeah, his sayings were collected by different authors, and there's a whole science behind it, even for a saying to be valid and acceptable. The chain of transmission has to be correct, and so many conditions have to be met.
Yes.
Now, the scholars in the Islamic history also formulated several different schools of law.
Indeed.
Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
I think we should, first of all, distinguish between what is called Sharia and fiqh. Mm-hmm. We should talk about Sharia only when we deal with norms contained in the text of the Quran. Mm-hmm. And anything developing from there in terms of legal systems, that we should call fiqh, and we should not forget that fiqh is man-made, mm-hmm. is human, mm-hmm. and therefore is not eternal. And the early Muslims developed 4 different accepted, there were more,
yes.
But Islamic history was more or less coined by being exposed to 4 schools of law. They differed from each other in some cases amazingly much. Some considered something legal that others considered worthy of death penalty to such an extent, incredible. Yeah. But the Muslims were so conscious that law is a human product from divine sources, human product from divine sources, that differences should be maintained, should be honored. So within the precinct of the Haram in Mecca, mm-hmm. the 4 schools had their own teachers who simultaneously taught their versions of the law.
This is near the Kaaba.
Yeah, around the Kaaba.
Near the house of God, for
Yeah.
anybody who may
Yeah,
not understand
yes.
those terms. Yes.
So there was Hanafi law, Shafi'i law, Hanbali law, taught simultaneously.
Yes. Extraordinary. Could you give us an example of where you made the differentiation between Sharia and fiqh? Can you give us a practical example of what would be Sharia and what would be fiqh? Human, what is perhaps not eternal, and then eternal.
In the 5th surah, it says somebody who kills without any justification a human being before God is like somebody who has killed all of mankind.
Yeah.
That means that murder is an extraordinary crime and cannot be discussed away. That is the case of Sharia.
Yes. And fiqh?
Fiqh, people later on developed the science of how to support a divorced wife, for instance.
Yes.
And the different schools of law came to different conclusions of how much and how one should arrive at figuring out the maintenance of a divorced wife. This is another example.
Now, going back into history, Muslim knowledge was a bridge between Aristotelian knowledge and Western philosophy. Could you explain this contribution of the Muslims?
Well, we take, for instance, Ibn Rushd. Ibn Rushd was a 12th century philosopher who knew Aristotle but expanded on Aristotle because Aristotle had no ontology, no teaching on the creation of matter. In contrast to Plato, Aristotle dealt with what he saw without speculating about how it came about. So there is no Aristotelian ontology. Ibn Rushd replaced that against the background of Islamic thinking. So that was so important. Ibn Rushd published 12 different commentaries on Aristotelian philosophy. And that Thomas Aquinas knew about Aristotle was through the translations made of Ibn Rushd's philosophy in Toledo into Latin. So there is a direct impact of Islam on European philosophy.
There are more examples, of course, of how Muslims influenced European thinking in the Middle Ages. Could you tell us some more?
Well, Ibn Sina is an extraordinary case too. Avicenna, he was not only a philosopher, he was a medical doctor. And he was maybe the most important medical mind in human history. Because his textbook on how to heal, Kanun, it was called,
yes.
the law, Kanun, yes, was used in Europe for 600 years, from the 12th to the 18th century.
Yes, it was the foundation of medicine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or take Ibn Khaldun. Ibn Khaldun did something that nobody else achieved in world history. He created two sciences. Mm-hmm. He is the founder of scientific historiography. Mm-hmm. And he is the founder of sociology. In his world history, he developed the idea that human society moves from primitive into refined, into decadent. And then it starts anew.
Yeah.
Quite extraordinary. People here don't know that and think that sociology was invented in the 19th century. It's wrong. It was invented in the 15th century.
Wow.
By Ibn Khaldun. And Ibn Khaldun was also an Andalusian who moved into North Africa and taught also in Tunis and in Cairo.
Now, could you go on to explain how Muslim thinkers even influenced the Age of Enlightenment in Europe? I mean, did the Europeans pick up some of those thoughts? Which ones?
That is a pretty sad story, because Voltaire wanted to criticize the Catholic Church for its irrationality, and he abused Islam for that. He wrote a drama called Muhammad, in which he criticizes irrationality in religion, meant to attack the Catholic Church, but the Muslims had to pay the price for it. Frederick the Great criticized Voltaire for it. He wrote him and said, "You know better that Islam is not that way," because Frederick the Great of Prussia, he knew about Islam since he had Islamic troops. He had several brigades of Muslims. They were formerly Russian soldiers who were caught and then were integrated into the Prussian army. But they were Muslims of Tatar background.
Right. And he criticized Voltaire.
Yeah,
yes.
he criticized Voltaire.
Yes.
Lessing did with his Nathan the Wise.
Yes.
In Nathan the Wise, they are Jewish, Christian, and Muslim people, but only the Muslims are without fault.
Really?
Are absolutely ideal. If you read it, you will find that out. It's quite extraordinary. Or take Goethe. Goethe ran into Islam directly when the Russian troops of Alexander the Great, during the Napoleonic Wars, came to Weimar. And he saw Bashkiri soldiers pray in Weimar, and he was impressed. So when he wrote his West Eastern Divan, he did so against the background of direct visual experiences he had with Muslims.
Yes. And would you say it was a brave text? Because it really, and in many instances, speaks from the perspective of a Muslim.
No, because the 18th century was a tolerant century.
Right.
And it was a century where deism grew, which meant that you left it up to people like Frederick the Great, chacun à son goût.
Each to their own taste.
Yes, it was the 19th century and which became materialistic, and the 20th which became ideological, where intolerance grew. The 18th was ideal.
Thank you very much. This is so fascinating. We'll take a short break now here on Matters of Faith, and we shall be right back with more on the Enlightenment and the Islamic contribution in a moment. See you then.
Wow, that's a very interesting explanation by Hofman. I think I really like, in a sense, how he explained this Islam as a rational faith. He talked about, in a sense, different sphere from the Quran, the hadith of the Prophet, and how the Sharia was formed, and then some of the things, you understand, that the people, you understand, do, which you called it, is it the fiqh or something like that? Like, I think a way of maybe the people decide that, no, look, let's do things, you understand, this way and all that. So, and he actually make reference to Quran chapter 5 that was talking about taking maybe the soul or a life of human without any justification is just like killing the entire humanity, and saying so many things, and how the action of someone, you understand, the Muslim have to pay the price in the process of trying to write something to discredit the Catholic Church. But then at the end of the day, the Catholic have to take the fall. And that's why I have always says that at some point, I think that the Muslims supposed to be able to maybe separate themselves from some of the religious values and some of these political, or should I say personal interests, so that they can be able to tackle all these things. Else otherwise, you see, one person can do something, right, maybe for his own personal reason, but then the whole religion end up paying the price for it. And that's what's happening during that 9/11. Why? The interests of Osama bin Laden end up affecting every Muslim, and that resulted to all this Islamophobia and all those things, you know, the hostility that we have been, you understand, verge on the Muslims, and everyone, you understand, that is a Muslim tend to suffer, you understand, for it. And up till today, let me not say, okay, even though now it has kind of, the tension have kind of reduced through what, education, dialogue and all that, but then all the same, like, this video is actually very informative. It kind of exposed me to some certain things that has happened, you understand, before, and then we could see even the influence of Islam even in our society. We look at it even in medicine, and then we even look at, you understand, the father of psychologists, about some of the things that he does and how it was even taught from the 12th century to the 18th century. Like, you see those kind of information, not to even talk about algebra and all that. Like, you realize that Islam have kind of should I say, contribute, you understand, to the development of this very 21st century. But then, if, like, imagine we are not listening to this kind of videos, how are we going to know about all these things? So that makes this channel, in a sense, something that we should take it very seriously, because I'll be bringing out some informative, you understand, video for all of us to kind of deliberate on it. And maybe probably some of the things that we are not mentioned at the course of the video, you can actually put it at the comment section, so that we all learn from one another, right? Probably there might be something that you want to add up to this video. Just put it at the comment section, and then I'm going to check it out, even though this video have part 2 of it. So this is the first segment, and then we're going to check out the second segment, and then we can be able to conclude on it. But then I know that a lot of you have, you know, a lot of people who have contributed to the development of the world at large, and then therefore you can just drop me the link of such videos, so that we can all, I'll actually watch it, and then maybe probably say my own remark, and then you can also contribute to it, and God is going to bless you. Trust me, both the Christian, the Muslim, the Hindu, and everyone, they are all learning, you understand, from this video. And if you're a Hindu, you have a particular scholar, you want me to check out his video, you can all drop it at the comment section. Same thing applicable to the Christian, to the Muslim, and then to the Jew. Okay, a very interesting video, and I hope that we tends to enjoy this. So this is the end of my video. If you like my reaction, you should like, share and subscribe. And if you have any video you want me to react to, don't forget to drop it at the comment section, and I'm going to check it out. So guys, you remain blessed, and I see you in my next video. Bye bye.